invite you.
Aloha, I'm Emily T. Gail, and it's another edition of Talk Story Hawaii, and I'm delighted to be with Mark Rolfing, NBC Golf Channel analyst, and I consider good friend.
A good friend,
and
absolutely.
A good friend to many of us, and mentor. He's mentored many, many people over the years, and that's another story. But Mark, you're getting ready to go out on course here at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship, where it's the early morning of the second round. Some of the players have gone off, but what a great day it was yesterday. What a wonderful broadcast. Boy, I saw some new shots of some aerial shots. Give us an overview of what's going on this week with the broadcast.
Well, the broadcast is totally different than it's ever been, and it's something I've lobbied for a long time. You know, because of the high winds in Hawaii and just the nature of where we are, we don't have a blimp in Hawaii. So there's never been a way to really get up in the air on live golf and show the perspective of the islands the way it should be shown. So we decided this year to use a fixed-wing airplane, which started at Kapalua. The guy's got a fixed-wing airplane on the north shore of Oahu. So he came to Maui the first week. And then
that would be for the Tournament of Champions?
That was for the Tournament of Champions, and then Sony last week, and then Hualalai this week. And it just totally changes the dynamic of the broadcast, because it's a shot that you can always go to if you don't have some golf being played, or if there's a lull in the action, or if you're going to a commercial break or whatever it is. You know, you can always go to that fixed wing. And the nice thing about it is it's quiet. It doesn't have a big hum like the blimp does, and he can get up much higher than a blimp. So we'll be able to look right down into the volcano
Well, the
today.
Golf Channel and NBC, we're talking with Mark Rolfing, who will be up in the booth for the Golf Channel today. But you've been broadcasting for so many years, and you say you've been lobbying for it. I think you're more of a visionary. I see so many things that you kind of might mention, and a year or two later, I see it happening. So you're a very patient man with your visionary ideas, and I love that about you. You've been such a friend to Hawaii for so many years. I think you had a vision many, many years ago about the Kapalua course before it was built. Didn't you stand on a ridge one day and say this could be a golf course?
Well, I did. You know, it's interesting. I've kind of become so synonymous with Hawaii, even though I'm not native Hawaiian, obviously. But I think what people enjoy in the Hawaii telecast is much more than just the pure golf. On the PGA Tour events, the first two at Kapalua and Sony, I did a total of 21 taped vignettes that aired on Golf Channel and NBC, and none of them were about the golf. They were about, you know, how did the aloha shirt get invented? You know, how's a surfboard made? How do you play an ukulele? People absolutely love that kind of stuff. And the reaction that I've gotten in the last 2 weeks, more than anything else by far, has been about the Hawaiiana kind of stuff, not the golf.
And as well, Mark Rolfing, on social media, there have been a lot of comments from across the country, and of course across everywhere, because Golf Channel, you broadcast out to, 100 countries and millions and millions
I don't know
of
how
viewers.
to get on that stuff. Okay. I'm not sure I want to be seeing what they're saying about me.
Very nice things, and those were wonderful vignettes, and I loved the way that you've been taking the players and doing pieces with the players, and they go out and they take a little excursion, whether it's paddle boarding or a walk out on a hike or something. They really up close and personal with not just the players, but with what Hawaii is all about.
Well, and you've got some guys, Emily, that have been coming to Hawaii for so many years that have fallen in love with the islands. Matt Kuchar is going to be on this island for a month. You know, he's taking his kids out of school. He's got a tutor. And so he will have a total of almost 7 weeks in Hawaii when all is said and done. And he will do everything on this island. I guarantee you. He'll be in the water. He'll be on the top of the volcano. He will be everywhere.
We're at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship at Hualalai. It's the morning of the second round. Some real low scores yesterday. Rocco Mediate at 9 under, and Dan Forsman was right in the hunt there. And J. Don Blake, Fred Funk, well, they're all in hunt, because anything can happen in a day's round out here at Hualalai, particularly when there's no wind. But Mark Rolfing, tell us, 9 Hall of Famers out here playing this week, and then Lanny Watkins is in the booth, so 10 Hall of Famers. The Ryder Cup captain, Tom Watson, who's also a resident of Hualalai. It is definitely a Tournament of Champions out here at Hualalai, at Mitsubishi Electric Championship.
It really is. It's a phenomenal field, and it's amazing how well these guys still play. It's kind of interesting, you know, all day long yesterday we talked about the low scores. There's no wind, and we've been seeing a lot more years lately where there's no wind, and I would really like to actually see a couple of changes out here. I'd like to see a couple of tees move back, particularly at holes like 15 where there's room you could go back closer to the road, because the bunkers and the lava outcropping that Nicklaus designed 20 years ago are no longer in play. And I think it has become, when there's no wind, just basically a putting contest. You hit the ball as far as you can, and then you see who can putt the best. And so I'd like to see them test these players a little bit more and maybe look at how you could go back on a couple of holes when the wind isn't blowing. When it's blowing, fine. But when it's not blowing, make it a little more of a test.
Interesting, because the guys that came with the low scores yesterday all attributed to putting well. So Mark Rolfing, give us a little background of, like, when you're out, you're in the booth and you're out on the course when you're broadcasting, but you started broadcasting a long time ago. What do you know now today? I mean, it's got to be, I don't think people realize how hard all of you guys are working. You're up early in meetings and you're out there, you got to do your homework. Of course, you know the players and stuff, but there's still a lot of homework to do. But talk a little bit about your experience. You were a golfer. You're a player. You played on the Asian Tour for a while, and that's how you ended up in Maui. But so you've got that knowledge, and I think people respect that. You've got the knowledge of the golf game. But in terms of the broadcasting, share with our listeners what like an average day, not an average day, but just a little snippet of what it's like to be a broadcaster with Golf Channel and NBC.
It's the greatest job in the world, first of all. So this is my 27th year now, and I've developed a little system, and I have a style, and my producers and directors after all this time kind of know me pretty well, and they know what I like to do. And I'm a cross between a play-by-play guy and an analyst, so I need to have a certain amount of information about the players, but I also need to know what I'm really going to say about the course and analyzing the play. And the thing I've probably learned more than anything else over the 27 years is don't try and get too much stuff, because you're never going to get it in. I think the danger is always to over-prepare and talk too much and not get out what are your main points. And so yesterday when I went out and I looked at the hole locations and I looked at the greens, I started thinking about how over the years I've seen people read way too much break into these greens at Hualalai, because they just don't break much. And I made a statement early on in the telecast that people are going to miss way many more putts on the high side of the hole than they are on the low side, because they're going to always play too much break. And so I developed that theory as the round went on yesterday, and the director started showing shots from behind the player with the putter blade behind the ball, and you could see in like 10 putts in a row they missed on the high side. They played too much break. So once I get a theme like that going, I'll take that for the entire 3 hours.
And even that, people wouldn't know that you go out there early in the morning and look at hole locations. Now, those are things that that's your way of doing. Everybody has their way.
I got a fishing rod in my cart right here, right now. But that's going to change, and it's going to become a putter and some balls. And I will actually go out to my greens for the holes that I'm calling and see where the hole location is. And then you pretty much know, like if the pin is in the back right quarter of a green here, nobody's going to want to go long or going to want to go right. So most of the putts are going to come from short and left of the hole. And so I will go there and I'll hit a few putts, and that's how I'm.
And did you do some fishing this morning?
I haven't done it yet because it's a little rough. We got a swell coming in, Emily.
Okay, so let's go back a few years. You had your wonderful Mark Rolfing Golf Hawaii. Now you do the Global Golf Adventures, and you're changing the nature of that show, and you're going and really showcasing venues. And one of them that I think is really going to be special is the 50th anniversary for Mauna Kea Resort. And the reason I think that kind of fits in with the Mitsubishi Electric Championship here at Hualalai going on its 18th year is it was many, many years ago that Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player for the first time played together, and it was at Mauna Kea Resort. I think they were over at the Hawaiian Open in Maui or something. They came over and they played the Big Three of golf, which you can still see on the Golf Channel once in a while.
Yeah, it was December 8th, 1964, Emily, and it's hard to imagine that was 50 years ago, but we're going to have a year-long celebration, and it's actually not going to involve just Mauna Kea. It's going to involve Mauna Lani and Waikoloa and pretty much the entire island. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time here, but I'm going to sit down with Arnold Palmer and get him to talk about what it was like. He has told me some stories that are fabulous. The players did not stay down on the ocean. The Mauna Kea Beach Hotel was not open yet. They stayed up in Waimea. And there's some great stories about being up there in those days. And it's just really intriguing to me that golf built on lava has become such a hugely popular thing. Yet 50 years ago, there was no golf course on lava. And literally what Robert Trent Jones did at Mauna Kea has become the prototype golf course. It's the original. It's still probably my favorite golf course ever built on lava. And the same methods that he used 50 years ago are still being used today. When Rhys Jones built Kohana Iki, Reese actually worked on the project as a little kid with his dad up at Mauna Kea 50 years ago.
Did you do the remake up there?
He did the remake
up at Mauna Kea, yeah.
But they still use the same process basically to crush the lava they did 50 years ago.
So Mark Rolfing, analyst with the NBC Sports and the Golf Channel, and going to be, I just love that you're the one that's putting all that together for the 50th anniversary for the Mauna Kea Resort. And I particularly like, and it's typical of you to probably get everybody engaged in that, if it's going to include all the resorts, because Mauna Lani Resort, they had a whole lot to do with creating golf on this island when they were single-handedly carrying the responsibility and the pleasure of hosting the Mauna Lani Senior Skins for so many years. And I think 9, 10, 11 years they did it, and we saw Arnold and Hale and Ray Floyd and Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Lee Trevino, so many of them come every year after year. And I remember you playing in the Pro-Am, and I think that's where I really started to get to know you, and it was just, when we look back at those years, that really set a precedent for how great a marketing tool showcasing the golf courses and all the recreational aspects of Hawaii do for us.
Well, it's interesting, people sort of know me as a Maui guy, but in 2014, I'm literally going to be a Hawaii Island guy. And
I love it.
One of the things that's intriguing to me about this, Emily, if you start at the north, you can go by decade for the history of golf on this coast. So Mauna Kea was the decade of the 60s. It was the original. In the 70s, it was Mauna Lani. That's when that resort was literally born. And then we had two. We had Mauna Kea in the 60s, Mauna Lani in the 70s. 1980s, Waikoloa. Along came Chris Hemmeter, most spectacular hotel probably ever built at the time. And that was, Waikoloa was born in the 80s. Hualalai was born in the 90s. I remember Jack Nicklaus bringing me out here during one of those senior skins game and taking a look at this lava and saying, we're going to build a course here. And I kind of said, are you crazy? He goes, oh, no, don't you see this 18th hole here? No, I couldn't see anything except lava. So you had Hualalai then in the 90s, and you had Kohanaiki then in the 2000s. So you have each one of the major places had its own decade, so it's pretty cool.
And this golf course, we were talking with Mark Rolfing, NBC Golf Channel analyst, and on course and in the booth, giving a lot of color to the Mitsubishi Electric Championship at Hualalai, as he has every year. But this golf course was actually built as kind of a spectator course. This arena here where people can sit, it'll be packed this afternoon and tomorrow. People sitting here on the hillside and coming down the fairway. It's a great venue for TV, and it was built that way. But you talk about Waikoloa Beach Resort, they too played a part in bringing great golf to the islands. Tosh Rohr used to have his King's Cup, I think it was called, and we used to get a chance to see Clint Eastwood and Brad Faxon and Steve Stricker, and there were a lot of players that came and played in that event. So they've all played their part in bringing great golf and championship golf and giving us all a chance to meet some of these PGA Tour players that are now Champions Tour players, and kind of upfront and personal.
This is absolutely, Emily, the best golf tournament I have ever seen to watch the greatest names to have ever played golf up close. And if you watch the players during the practice rounds, the Pro-Ams, even a lot of them during tournament rounds, will stop and talk to spectators and people that they've seen year after year coming here. And it's almost like when the Champions Tour guys come here, they're part of the community. Dana Quigley for years was the unofficial mayor of Hawaii Island, and so it's a really cool place to watch. If I were going to be a spectator at one tournament and only one more in my entire life, I think I would pick this one.
Well, I was watching a show I made a few years back when Dana, one of the events he won, and he pulled out of his pocket a tea leaf that Richard had given him, who was a guest attendant. And sadly, Richard, I believe, has passed away. But, he was a real friend of the island. But every year, these players, they become friends of the island. For my radio show, I had J. Don Blake's son on last week. We all get to know the family members. We learn more about the players through their family members, sometimes, I think. But a lot of the wives are caddies for their players. Sharon, caddies for Fred Funk once in a while, and Marcy for J. Don Blake. And they're just, Hillary's always out there watching Tom Watson. They really extend their aloha to the volunteers. And, in fact, some comments about the great volunteers at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship at Hualalai.
Well, yeah, this is a special volunteer force because, first of all, you don't have the massive crowds here that you would get you know, let's say at a U.S. Open or the U.S. Senior Open, let's say, where these guys will play later this year. So the jobs are a little bit different. It's not like trying to part the crowds, but what these volunteers have to do is make sure that Curtis Strange doesn't go through the lava again when he's walking from the 16th green to the 17th tee. That is very dangerous, Curtis. Bad idea. Anyway, you know, these volunteers are almost like ambassadors for this island, and you know, their job is really multifaceted, and they work hard, but you know, they've got a pretty good seat too for the golf.
Well, I know you got a busy day up ahead. Mark Rolfing, NBC Sports, Golf Channel analyst, a great friend of the beautiful Big Island of Hawaii. We're out here at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship. The morning of the second round is going to be a beautiful day. Shaping up as a beautiful day. Going to be some big crowds. We're going to see some those aerial shots on the Golf Channel going out to over 100 countries and millions of viewers. What more could we ask for? And here we are. We get to live here. So lucky we live in Hawaii. Some last thoughts to our viewers?
How about a four-way playoff with Watson, Couples? Let's throw in Ben Crenshaw. He'd have to shoot about 55 today out there today, but maybe Rocco. No, it's going to be a great weekend here, and the golf's going to be fabulous. And the one thing you know about this tournament, it's going to come down to the last two holes. I think it's been a two-shot or less victory probably 4 of the last 5 years, maybe 5 of the last 6.
Yeah, John Cook defending a really surprising ending last year, and he ended up having a playoff with David Frost, and it did come down to the last green here, the last putts.
That's why this is the best seat in the house right here.
More of the 18 years than not, hasn't it?
Come down to the last couple holes. You know, it's pretty hard to run away from the field here because the scores are so low. It's pretty hard to run away.
You know, we should give accolades once again to John Freitas, the general manager of Hualalai Golf Club, and Kelly Fleer. We were talking earlier about, and Brian Going, the tournament director, Brendan Moynihan, but Earl Saunders and Dan Forsman.
Yeah, boy,
Earl. Forsman, is that his last name?
Wow, what a job Earl has done, though. You know, he is the quiet man. And I saw him out here last night at 6:30. It was almost dark, looking at this 18th green.
I saw him a couple nights ago doing the same thing.
I mean, he just takes so much pride in his course, and it's just fabulous. I mean, this is the first event of the year on the Champions Tour, and it's the best by far.
And you're the best too, Mark.
All right, thanks,
I've always appreciated your longtime support over the years. It's
well, you're going to see a lot of me this year.
Does that mean you may
not be able to get rid of me?
Does that mean we'll see your lovely wife Debbie as well?
You will,
oh,
for
great.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Mark Rolfing, NBC Sports, Golf Channel. He does it all, and a visionary as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, when he tells he has an idea, he lobbying for something, I always know that a couple of years later it'll probably happen. In fact, I look at what a perfect blend everything was this year for the Aloha Swing, the Tournament of Champions over at Kapalua and Maui, the Sony Open, and over here to Hualalai Resort for the Mitsubishi Electric Championship. We couldn't have asked for better weather, better golf. It's been a delightful showcase for Hawaii, hasn't it?
It has, and if you see a new tee at 15 next year, you'll know I've been working.
Okay. Well, for years I've always wanted to get Mark Rolfing and Pete Rolfing together in an interview.
So
and
have I.
Finally I did. Mark has to run off to a production meeting for NBC Sports and the Golf Channel. And Pete early this morning was out taking care of some of the things he takes care of every morning. He does all the logistics out here at the golf course at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship at Hualalai. So Mark, good luck at your production meeting. We're going to talk to Pete now.
Thanks. You know, you said I was a visionary before, so I come up with all these grandiose ideas, and then he's got to figure out how to do it. That's the problem.
And that's the part that I tell people they should be watching more closely. What's out there on the golf course, shouldn't they, Mark? Well, in terms of the rope and
the whole setup doesn't happen by itself.
Yeah. And you do Kapalua as well, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. So Pete Rolfing.
Aloha, Rolf.
And I wonder if he's actually going to go fishing. So, Pete, I'm really glad to get a chance this morning. You were all kind of powwowed, going over some things you had to do, and which happens all day long. It's not just in the morning. Right. So, really pleased you could slip away because the last couple of days you've been awfully busy. But, let's go back to Kapalua over in Maui, the Tournament of Champions, the first event of the Aloha Swing. That's what I call it, which showcases the beautiful state of Hawaii in such a wonderful way to hundreds of countries and millions of viewers, and you're out there behind the scenes. So give people a little flavor of what you do as far as setting up not only the Tournament of Champions, but the Mitsubishi Electric Championship here at Hualalai.
Sure, Emily. Well, basically what my role is in the operational end of the events, and it's the pre-setting up of all the logistics that entail the infrastructure that goes up for the events, the tents, the scaffolding for the television towers, the bleachering, the sky boxes, all the way down to ordering portable toilets, to organizing with the local charities, their roles in distributing, through the volunteers, distributing rubbish cans out on the golf course during the event, and ice for the ice chests, all that kind of, small kind of Manini things that mean a lot to the event.
If a few pieces of them are missing, it's noticeable.
Yeah, that's right. When there's one player that comes along and there happens to be no drinks in the cooler at the time, then it's
so
a
let's
big
flash
problem.
back 18 years ago. How different it is with these, Mitsubishi scoreboards, the massive size of them compared to how it used to be. And we were talking about how the scoreboard used to be done with a calligrapher down here by the clubhouse, and how that's changed for you. You keep a couple containers of equipment up here and here on the Big Island, and people don't have any idea just how much equipment is required.
That's right. I was thinking about that as I was coming over here. What would have been the single biggest transition changed in those 18 years, and more than anything from my end would be the electronic scoreboards. And you very rarely, at least in the events here in Hawaii, I know the Sony Open still uses a manual leaderboard at the 18th green, but for the most part, it's all done with the electronic scoreboards, and it eliminates, first of all, error, or at least, minimizes the error, but the logistics that it takes to man the boards and the equipment that it takes to run it is just that much less. So.
Well, and also when you even taking the signage, I mean, I've watched how the signage has changed over the years, everywhere from whether it's signs of the media room or where people pick up the shuttle buses. And there's a whole encampment way out there in the old Kona Village area, or beyond here, Hualalai Resort, for the volunteer encampment, and your setup and Kelly Fleer, the tournament manager's office, is not just out here at the golf course. So when you arrive on the island, you bring the containers down. You've got a crew of 5 or 6, how many people?
We've got 6, 7, including myself.
They've all been here. They come here for the 18 years, right?
Exactly. It's the same group of guys, and everybody.
Let's mention them: Hanson, Chumley,
Danny Crimmins, Hanson, Dr. Chumley, Dan Deeb is his name, and Ben Fisher and Jimmy Hall.
Okay, well, they deserve a lot of credit because they've made a lot of friends here too.
Yeah.
With the way they very quietly take care of what needs to be done.
And everybody has their role, and everybody knows what to do, and knows it's very important at these events to have the knowledge that it takes to be around a golf event. Basically, do your work and don't be seen by, don't be on television, for instance.
It's a much tighter operation than people realize, because the PGA Tour is highly, I don't want to say regulated, but to keep a consistency with all of their events. Brian Goyne, who's head of the PGA Championship Management, is the tournament director for this event and has been from the very first year. But people don't realize that it's very specific how the PGA Tour likes things done. That's correct.
They're all the way down in, from our point of view, the roping and staking is a major portion of it. And their view on how they would like to have the gallery move close as spectators to the play is very important for the image of the event and for the quality of the spectator.
So Pete Rolfing, who handles the logistics for Kapalua and for the Mitsubishi Electric Championship here at Hualalai Resort, you do that for some other tournaments on the mainland as well?
I don't. These are the only 2 events that I do that for, but I also go and work with my brother. He works for NBC Sports, of course.
Mark Rolfing, who we spoke to earlier.
That's right. And so I will go to the mainland and work half a dozen or so events with him, working on television, working from the television angle. So.
Now, in a typical day, I see things like last evening, I saw Kelly kind of maneuvering and talking with the shuttle bus drivers about how they were going to park differently in the evening. So every day you've got certain things that you tweak and change a little bit. Right. You're talking about even just how it's changed here at the 18th hole, the arena here, how the players come up and they sign their scorecards, and that's the media section over here where they do the interviews with who is it? Billy Joe Brown, and the encores, Dave Marr and everybody. And of course, Mark Rolfing is up in the booth with, who else is there? John Mahafety or Lanny Watkins, rather.
That's right, yes.
And I can't remember the other person.
But
they do a great job. But even this setup is great because people can get autographs in a nice way. As the players come out of the scorer's booth, they're right there, and the fans can line up just outside the rope, but close enough that they also can hear the interviews that the players are doing with the on-course analysts.
Yes, it's a little bit different than the regular tour events in that respect. These are the legends that have been playing, now for, growing up in the spectators that are coming to this event, as when they were kids. And so it's enjoyable for them to get close to them and being able to get autographs and get a little bit closer to the action.
Now, it's a tournament of champions. They have to have earned their way into this tournament. 41 players this year, but really the people that get a lot of credit, well, the players are terrific players. The volunteers organized under the Rotary Club of Kona, under the umbrella of the Rotary Club of Kona Community Foundation. We're getting close to $1 million that's been raised over the duration of the tournament. And I know you work closely, you mentioned it earlier, with the volunteers, Larry Webb and Chris Hazard, the co-chairs this year. But some comments about that, and I know, like last evening, they're all congregated at the end of the day out there. There are over 400 volunteers or close to it. Just some comments about the camaraderie that you see amongst the volunteers while also working very hard. I mean, Preston Crowell has been here every year. He handles all the on-course logistics for the volunteers, right?
That's correct, and it's my brother always correlates it to, it's like 18 Super Bowls going on at one time, meaning 18 different holes as opposed to one stadium. And so there's the logistics on each one of those holes. And the volunteers do a tremendous job of, as we talked about earlier, making sure that there's ice and drinks on the tees for the professionals, and making sure that the rubbish is collected, and attending to any spectators that have medical emergencies, everything. And they do it every year on a very consistent and professional basis. And they, starting on Wednesday for the Pro-Am, are here beginning at 5 a.m. until last light for Wednesday and Thursday. And essentially, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's an all-day event as well for them. They have to get here to set up early enough to...
Well, I like your brother Mark Rolfing's analogy of it being like 18 Super Bowls or something, because really, if you look at the setup on each hole, like we're looking right behind us here at the 18th green, which is going to be packed with people this afternoon. It's a great setup, the arena design golf course for viewership for the spectators. What's nice about it is they can come out and hear it and watch it live, and then they can go home and watch it on the Golf Channel, broadcasting out to over 100 countries. But the towers, the on-course camera work, the logistics, every hole is a show in itself, because those cameras are following around with Dave Marr and Billy Joe Brown, and they have to maneuver, and they've got a lot of the Big Island citizens or community members. A lot of them have become regulars working with the Golf Channel. You'll see them out there moving the cable and having the mics in certain positions.
Miles
and they've learned
miles of that cable.
So to viewers, whenever you're watching a golf tournament, and particularly if you didn't get to see the Mitsubishi Electric Championship this year at Hualalai Resort, come on out, because it's a wonderful display of people working together, people from the PGA Tour, people from Pete Rolfing's group that handles the logistics, Mark Rolfing, and all the NBC and Golf Channel analysts, and all the volunteers. That really, it's a production, and it's not just the golfers that you should be looking at.
That's correct. It's a great event. It's been 18 years, and we look forward to another 2 at least here. So.
Well, as we said to Mark, I'm sure you got a busy day ahead of you.
That's right.
Okay, so Pete, appreciate you taking the time.
All right, Emily.
And I know you've been busy the last couple of days, so nice of you to take a little
Thank you very much
trip up here and get a chance to join us. Pete Rolfing here at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship at Hualalai. It's the morning of the second round. Most of the players probably have teed off, and it's going to be a beautiful day. I think there's going to be some low scores. There's no wind out here, but if there's one thing for sure, a lot of family members of the players and the players sure are happy to be here at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship at Hualalai. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Emily.
All right. Aloha.
Aloha.
Well, a delightful group that were smiling and all kind of gave us a big aloha as they were walking by, and I said, hey, join us for a moment. So tell us where you were headed.
We're heading to lunch.
Lunch
at the beach club.
And then you're going
to
probably be out here.
17.
We're going to 17 and 18 for the rest of the day.
Well, let's tell our viewers why everybody goes out to 17. That's the most spectacular place to view from, right along the ocean.
Beautiful ocean view. You get the whales jumping, watching the golf. It's just perfect.
Surf coming in.
Surf coming in.
It's a beautiful resort, beautiful course.
So tell me a little bit about who we're talking to. What's your name?
Wally and Pat Odell and Bruce and Sharon Peterson from Columbus, Ohio.
From Columbus, Ohio. OHIO.
Okay, well, I can understand why you're here at the Mitsubishi Electric Championship at Hualalai on a beautiful sunny day instead of being in Ohio, because I'm from
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah, well,
I know what it gets like.
We live here on 18 in the First Golf Villa, and they're our guests for the tournament.
Well, you know, we were just saying to another one of your residents, Lex, how nice it is, and I know so many of the residents, you give such a warm welcome to everybody that comes out here to the Mitsubishi Electric Championship. You essentially give up your golf course and your resort and just give such a, as I say, a warm welcome. But you're so enthusiastic about all of us coming out here to watch the tournament.
We love it. The pros are so nice. Their families are nice. Everybody's friendly. This is the greatest golf tournament there is.
Well, I really thank you for on your way to lunch.
Thank you for having us.
And
Talk Story Hawaii.
And Talk Story Hawaii. Hawaii, yeah. Practice your shotgun. There we go.